jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Welcome, ladies and gents. Taking some time away from our terrible weather situation that's happening nationwide in the States to talk about another A-lister turned B-lister turned A-lister turned B-lister again. So, welcome to the show. Paul Lee from Group Therapy TV. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I cannot complain. Can't complain.
I can complain about the crappy weather. That's about it today.
Right? At least I'm inside and I'm going to work, but that's not an option for everyone. Some of them have to, unfortunately, borrow a pickup truck from a friend, and probably more trouble than it's worth just making a living. But
yep.
Hey, so how appropriate. I got a comic book store owner and another podcaster here to discuss just a very hard to describe kind of appealing actor. That is the one, the only David Carradine. We've already covered his father, John, on here, so it's only appropriate that we talk about this legend. So would you describe yourself kind of as more of a movie or a TV kind of buff, or both? Just much like comics, you accept any kind of medium as long as it's entertaining.
I am addicted to television. I'm not even gonna lie about that. I watch way too much, and I'm a collector of movies. I'm a collector of television. I'm a collector of comic books. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, if it's in a medium that I like, I will enjoy it. I have a massive. I have a VHS, a DVD, Blu-ray, Laserdisc collection, and so yeah, I consume all that stuff, I guess.
Totally. For sure.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being on here. So yeah, what was your intro to the impossible to sum up David Carradine?
I would probably say
we can sum him up, but he's not easy. He's just an interesting character, both as a person.
He's definitely a weird guy. I've met him a couple times over the years, actually, too.
Oh, really? At comic book conventions?
He used to do Mid Ohio Con here in Columbus, Ohio.
Sweet.
And I remember the first year he did it. I was pumped, and I was like, this is, I knew he was going to be in, Kill Bill would come out. I grew up with him as on Kung Fu. I loved him in, as Frankenstein and Death Race. And I loved him in the Sword and Sorcery movies and stuff like that. And so I finally got to meet him. And I'm like, walked up to him and I'm like, hello, Mr. Carradine. I'm like, I put out my hand, this is back when you could, walk right up to the table. It wasn't, they didn't have the security to keep
invite you only.
Yeah. and I walked up to him and I greeted him, and he just kind of gave me this weird, like, kind of half-ass handshake. And he's just kind of like, thank you. And he acted like he was drunk.
He typically was.
Yeah.
Like his dad.
And I'd heard that, and I'm like, okay. And this is legitimately 11 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm kind of, I kind of meet him, and I talk to him for a couple minutes, and then I kind of go off, and I run into his manager, whoever's with him. And I'm like, man, I was like, is he all right? And they're like, yeah. He goes, we got to kind of pump him full of like B12 in the morning and hope for the best throughout the day. Cause at a certain point it all wears off and then he goes back downhill. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, so this happened. And then, he came back the following year and it was kind of the exact same thing. And I'm like, oh, so I guess this is how it is now. And it was a little disappointing. I can't say it was a lot disappointing. But I get it. He was, he's wasn't the healthiest guy, and he was a hard drinker for years. And
he was a sex addict. And I think the other thing, like you say, it was interesting in that, compared to other people where you admire their talent, but then you have a rude convention experience, like, whether it be, Bill Shatner before he learned to suck it up, or Tom Savini, is like, you just got to say, okay, it is what it is. It's like,
that's kind of where I was.
And I think it helped that everyone knew about his life enough and were fascinated enough by his weird mysticism. He's like, okay, so he's not, Asian American. He's not Chinese. He's not Chinese, but he kind of was almost as big as that. It's like, I think that's just it. I think any other actor we would have shit on, and he had already kind of come from B movie school, just bit parts in movies with his father, John, or brothers, Keith and Robert. And then, when he's stopped doing Westerns, then he does 2 Scorsese movies, and then, then goes to the Roger Corman school. And then again, Kung Fu blows up and he's set for life. It's like, he's pretty much welcome anywhere. And then he's back to Roger Corman school again, another Italian, and canon films. And it's just so wild how then, everyone knows him from something. If you never saw Kung Fu or heard of it, then you probably saw him in Larry Cohen's Q of the Winged Serpent, or Lone Wolf McQuade fighting Chuck Norris. So it's like, he's just, and then he's in all those silly, PM Entertainment movies, and he's the bad guy in that dorky, Goldie Hawn, Mel Gibson movie, Bird on a Wire. So it's like, he's the best part about every kind of movie. And he basically embraced anything, whether it be, mainstream, direct-to-video, made for TV. Is like, he just said, this is what it is.
Yeah, I don't think he ever turned down a paycheck. I think Nick Cage is becoming the new David Carradine.
I thought he was becoming the next Seagal, but that's fine. I understand. Yeah, because it's like, he's in so many goofy movies, and the thing with him is I've never heard anyone just flat out just say, like, I absolutely hate him. Like, I've never seen anyone just say I hate him as a person or as an actor. So I think that helps too. I think even all his various ex-wives have always, said big things about him. He's like, he was an interesting fella. He had charisma.
Oh yeah. Well, it was funny as a kid, I watched him on Kung Fu, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I found out, I was like, oh, he doesn't know martial arts. Okay.
Yeah, just like Eric Roberts, he just could act his way out of it. He just he made his shit up because he was just that weirdly creative, that weirdly dedicated. And like you say, I mean, he just popped up everywhere because basically, even though he'd be drunk either in the role or you never hear anything about him failing to even say a line. It's like, basically, he had his fun, and then, when it was time to work, he came to work. But it did. I mean, you hear even just stories about how even other people like Jim Wynorski would borrow his ranch for his kind of schlocky movies. This is so funny how he just, everyone came knocking on his door and wanted to pay him a tribute or a favor and just say, hey, you haven't done anything in a while that I have kept up with, but I want you to guest star on our show this week, and either just play yourself or just be a villain of the week, or just be a dad, be a brother. So.
Well, that's like, I didn't even, because I have a bunch of his movies on DVD and VHS, and I thought, oh man, I got to have a ton of them. And then I pulled up his IMDb page a little bit ago and was like, wow.
Barely.
Yeah. He died in 2009. I think he still put out 10 more movies.
That's just it. He had so many movies that were just like they sat on him for a while and like tried to clarify him with his estate, I think, and then like you said, sometimes he would just show up for a day and it was an ensemble cast. But his is like, how do I promote an actor? It's like it's long gone. And
his last movie was in 2013.
Oh, now I'm seeing 2017, but it's like
no, he
but
did one
those definitely were filmed in the last decade, and they just now came out because of I don't know, investor issues or what have you. You don't know what it was, and it's like, and his guest spots include everything from Ironside, Airwolf, Matlock, sometimes playing multiple characters at a time, and I love how he even worked in like cartoon voiceovers. He's on a Jackie Chan Adventures playing Lopi, and like that's great. Just blend into that.
He was even he was in one of the what was it, American Tail movies.
Oh, totally. And it was kind of wild though. It's like Kung Fu like gave him the martial arts audience, and yet it also kind of kept alive his Western audience that he had kind of been raised on, just being on movies that his dads or brothers were working on.
Well, it was. I was watching the other day. Like I said, when you first contacted me about being on here, I kind of started going through my own stuff and like started watching some of his older movies, and I'm like, oh yeah, shoot, I forgot he was in an episode of Night Gallery as like a Manson type character, and I was like, man, that's got to be early on and it was way early in his career. And then he had like his POW, the Escape movie, which is like his knockoff of Missing in Action Chuck Norris movies.
Yeah, Rambo. Yeah, it's all that.
Oh, yeah.
Going back to Nam to rescue the ones who got left behind type stuff. And I mean, it's even funnier just seeing him even be in, movies with, he, like you say, never turned it down. And so, like, he'd do a Roger Corman picture here and there, often playing the bad guy or crooked sheriff or the good old boy, cowboy's going to save the day. And, then those goofy apocalyptic movies where he is an excuse for him to do his version of Kung Fu, which is really just him punch people. But, it's even funnier to see him against the likes of the Cynthia Rothrock's, Frank Zagarinos, and even the, what was their name? The brothers, the Barbarian Brothers is like, being
the Barbarian Brothers,
being their wacky martial arts movies. And is like, if in a way he's kind of coming back, he's sunk to their level, but he's also kind of raising it at the same time. That's interesting. I can't think of any other actor who kind of does that. Usually they're awesome, but they're almost always like a sign of better stuff. But I mean, he even stars in movies with his Kill Bill co-stars, like Michael Madsen and Daryl Hannah. Says like, that's fun.
Oh yeah, I was like, I forgot he was the main vampire, basically Dracula in the Sundown movie with Bruce Campbell.
Totally, because he doesn't even play it as that typical,
Yeah, well, we were sitting there talking about this. He, him being such a decent actor that he fooled pretty much everybody into thinking he was a martial arts expert. I was going through and I found some old Kung Fu magazines, I believe, or black belt magazines where he's on the cover. And you're like, you were able to trick these people.
Right.
That's a good actor.
That's a really good actor. Yeah. And it's like he just was the icon, or just, he apparently became a devoted student, but even then, it's just like, when he took the role, he wasn't, you can't say he was second nature to him. It's like, no, he's just, like you say, he's just very convincing and giving it his all.
Oh, yeah. And, I've been, since the HBO days as a kid, when you would go through and
oh yeah, he would star in plenty of those
Death
Filipino
Race
movies.
was on, and oh yeah,
erotic thrillers.
So
he'd show up as the bad guy.
Like, yep. And you're just like, this stuff is so good. And then you're like, because I hate to say this, but as a kid, I always thought he Yeah, he was great, and I always thought he was a bigger actor. It wasn't until I, probably high school when I started realizing it's like, oh, he's a B movie at best guy. I mean, because he'd been in so much stuff that I loved, that I grew up watching, that I thought he was bigger. And then you're like, oh, okay, but he's in everything.
Oh, totally. And just seeing how he got to start where he would just be in period piece dramas, even getting the most award attention he gets is even for playing a real life country singer, It's like, that's something. So he's done all kinds of things and everyone's pretty much liked him in everything, whether it be top of the line or bottom of the barrel stuff. And it's just something. It's like, I don't think he was ever like Val Kilmer where he was famous, but he didn't know what to do with his career. I think he pretty much is like, what comes, what doesn't. It's like comes and goes. And
The ebbs and flows. Because I know, watching Kill Bill, you know that Warren Beatty was supposed to be Bill.
Yeah.
But after you watch Kill Bill, you're like, that would have never have worked. It had to be David Carradine,
I think Tarantino even realized he was talking out of his ass, and he's like, okay, hey, back to square one, scratch it.
Yep.
It's got to be someone who's famous for playing some kind of martial artist, regardless of what they do or don't know. And I mean, I even see him in some later cop thrillers, serial killer movies, and even vampire movies. Like in the 2000s to 2010s, and he would work it in any way he could. He would have it'll end with some sword fight,
Oh yeah. He had to do his martial arts and do something there. What's like
he plays Van Helsing in one of them. It's like, that's awesome. So Van Helsing knows martial arts in this version.
Oh yeah. Like I forgot he was in one of the mini Children of the Corn movies. So
yeah. And even reprises the role of Frankenstein as his voice in the Death Race remake. So it's like, and he can laugh at himself clearly. He's in Crank 2 playing in a cameo playing a guy named Poon Dong. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. He's been in plenty of movies I never even finished, and like Dark Fields or whatever, and it's like, I didn't feel cheated at all. I was just like, okay, I can't blame him, because I get that he's just kind of, everyone loves him so much, and he's always kind of been the B grade guy. So he kind of gets this a get out of jail free, unlimited amount from me. It's like, he is what he is. He is compared to other actors who would just show up and just not care. But were known for their bad boy attitudes. So you weren't surprised that, okay, so they're going to be doing a lot of questionable to just unwatchable movies the next decade, because that's just they just can't reclaim that value, or they're difficult to work with, or whatever the reason,
Oh yeah, you get a lot of them guys who did like 1-2 big movies. They got a lot of praise, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm important, and then next thing you know, they're direct to DVD at best, and then then direct to streaming. Then they're on Tubi and
some of them, I don't know how they lasted as long as they did, because like, if you weren't even watching those movies when they played on, when for the longest time the movie channels and cable TV would play them because they were just easier to afford, or they'd come on as the afternoon movie on network TV. And it's like, after a while, it's like, regardless of who was doing the programming, it changed after a while. And I think he just was good at adapting to whatever. He just, because again, we have even though he's drunk at, like you say, public events, like, and it's funny you bring that up, because I know he was at one of those PM Entertainment group places, and he basically talks some shit. It's like, hey, glad you like those awful movies we just did a private screening of. It's like, I think he knew how to be a wise ass and get away with it, versus other people who is like, oh, he just killed a decade of your life there,
Yeah, it's I like to compare him to current Bruce Willis.
Kind of, because everyone wants to work with him, and yet at the same time, well, not everyone, because they go on the Kevin Smith rant, but I mean, it's like, he could be good if he were in a better movie. And even with Eric Roberts is currently Mr. Cue Card guy. Some people think that's him being spoiled. Other people think that he's earned it. And either way, everyone wants to work with him because they just love the persona is just so bigger than the talent itself. So, yeah.
Well,
I'm sure Carradine did show up drunk to a Roger Corman set, and they all got laid. They all had fun. They all said, "Hey, this is fun. Let's do it again." Thanks, brother.
and Roger Corman was over off the side going, "We need more boobs. We need more."
Yeah, we need more. We need more dinosaurs. We need more.
Dinosaurs, boobs, and David Carradine sitting there going, "Yes, we need more boobs."
Right. Carradine is like, "What do I do? Do I karate kick someone, or do I shoot him, or you just want me to just be me? I'm the mysterious bad guy over the phone." And he did a lot of those too. And anyone else, it often felt like just walk in, just literally phoning it in. And it's like, he's in a bunch of those where it's like, I don't know, that just was cool. He just has that charming an aspect to him, both on and off screen, and he just can't get away from it. It's just, and everyone else is like, they were often just thought of in a not so enlightening way, or, oh, you're the overrated karate guy who can kick but can't act. It's like, yeah, so he never got kind of the ridicule that you would probably see from someone like Van Damme, who, was ego-headed but has now come to be beloved, and then Seagal, who was a terrible person who somehow got famous. So it's like, it's something else. It's something weird, and it's funny you say that. I do kind of compare him to Bruce Willis or even Robert De Niro, who's like known for now being a horse's ass nowadays, and yet everyone wants to work with him. It's just that bigger persona, and he'll probably say yes because he also even Morgan Freeman and some of those other guys, Anthony Hopkins or Forrest Whitaker, have taken paychecks. They just said, okay, going to do 2 movies that my heart might not be in, but I'll have fun. I'll give it my all. And then I'll do 2 that I actually care about. And I think it also helped that he also just always had the cowboy aspect. Like, clearly, no one forgot about his work on, say, The Long Riders, because he's in a bunch of independent or festival movies, or even just Hallmark stuff, and is like playing a cowboy, and is like, that works. That's the reason anyone wanted to check it out. And I remember even seeing him in this one company that would always basically buy anyone's crappy micro budget westerns and sell them at gas stations, and often they would have Michael Madsen or him on the cover playing a cowboy or a sheriff, and he plays a U.S. Marshal in this one, and the commentary was more entertaining than the movie, because they're like, yep, he showed up, he sat still in that same spot that you see him in, for about all day, and did pretty good. I'm like, that totally enlightens me. That totally tells me everything I need to know.
That's great when they can just be like brutally honest and be like, yep, he was here that day and he did things.
Totally. And I mean, you even see some of these other goofy movies like Treasure Raiders or Hell Ride, which is a send up the biker genre. I think he just got used to, I'm going to be the big bad and I'm going to ham it up. And I'm also going to have way too much fun. So in a way, you'll kind of like my villain, even though I'm not supposed to be loved. So I think, I think he's just a trooper. And out of all people, you would have thought with all his drinking and other stuff, he would have had something like maybe diabetes or cancer. And he's like, no, he just was a sex addict, and that's unfortunately what did him in. But I'm not surprised that he's a drunk, because John himself was known for being a drunk. He was kind of Michael Caine before it was a thing, where he would just, star in those John Ford movies, and then afterwards star in anything, just to put your divorced kids, through everything. And so I think they were just that grateful. They were just like, they've done, quantity can eventually become quality, because eventually a lot of people have seen a lot of your things more than they realize.
Well, eventually, no matter you're going to get a winner. If you're in every movie, every once in a while, they're going to be good movies. So,
totally. And
I mean, one of my favorite movies is Shockwaves with John Carradine as the boat captain, and that's the underwater Nazi zombie movies with Peter Cushing right after Star Wars.
There you go. Yeah, this is like he went back to this Hammer horror house and all the other spectacles. So yeah.
Yeah. They knew their wheelhouse, and that's just it, man. These guys, they Carradine knew where he did. Even if, like, I just rewatched The Warrior and the Sorceress 2 days ago.
Fun.
And that's a Western. That is the gunslinger for hire rolls into town. The town is at, and I'm like sitting there and like looking at this, like, this is just a Western, but set in a fantasy time,
100%. And it's often what Roger Corman would often just joke, just like he's basically just redoing Free Tin to Yuma or High Noon, but just, adding it with zombies or, mad scientists and a bunch of rapists, it's like just changing it up.
Gotta keep it mixed up, but just did you ever see the Roger Corman documentary?
Oh, which one? There's a bunch, like the one with him and Charles Band, or
oh man, what was the oh man, it's not. I won't say it was the one with him, because there's some kind of unflattering stuff, because they talk about like Humanoids from the Deep, about how it was a woman that directed it, and it was more, I guess, cerebral horror, and he
decided to just make it be an alien type movie, and that's typical Roger. But yeah,
gore and boobs, put the gore and boobs in there. But they go on the whole thing where they talk about his
Exploits of a Hollywood Rebel.
Believe so, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, my problem is that I've watched so many of these film documentaries while during the pandemic that they blur together.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Ozploitation one, not quite Hollywood. Grindhouse, all these movies like that, but yeah, they were talking about the whole. They talk on there about his working with David Carradine, and how he, they go, okay, well, this is this movie, this is your movie, this is your movie, this is your movie, and that's how we got Death Race and Death Sport, which was supposed to have been the sequel, the pseudo sequel to Death Race. Mm-hmm. And Circle of Iron and stuff like that.
So. Oh yeah, totally. And how wild how he gets to work with all these guys, and it's like everyone wants to keep working with him or asking favors for him, and he'll do it. He just had nothing to lose, I don't think, regardless of what marriage he was on. I'm really surprised that, I don't know if his divorces were expensive. You imagine they were, or?
Oh, I can imagine, because divorces aren't cheap anyways, I guess. And when you're, I guess, famous, people kind of like, hey, we're going to get as much out of you as we can. And then when you're, let's see, holy crap, how many times was he married? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 times.
5, Jesus. So yeah, he can't turn anything down at that point.
Well, no, he was divorced 4 times, married 5 times, and he was married at the time of his death. So, and I can't remember if he's got the daughter. Didn't he have the like Ever Carradine? Can't remember if that's his daughter or not, or one of the other Carradines. I don't know. They definitely, she definitely looks like a Carradine, because they all kind of look the same.
Yeah, I think Callista is his oldest daughter. Yeah, and
yeah.
I find it funny that Robert and Keith would put him on some of their shows, so that's kind of fun.
Yep, and there's another thing is that he was listed as a producer, and you just wonder, he's like, hey, I need an actor to fill in. I'll just put myself in here.
He basically just gets freedom to do whatever he wants with the role, and everyone's fine with it because they just love what he's doing.
Oh yeah, you just let him go at it. It's if you're going to hire David Carradine, you kind of know what you're getting, so you just let him be David Carradine. It's not like he's acting outside, way outside his role. It's not like he's Joaquin Phoenix acting like Johnny Cash, or but he's just David Carradine. I mean, it's hard to really kind of, I guess, look past that, I guess, because I don't know how to explain it. It's in my head, but I can't quite get it out.
I totally know what you mean. And I mean, I can imagine even as a filmmaker, regardless of the whole shtick, like whether you're very controlling or you're actually respecting, the whole, actors don't tell directors how to direct and directors don't tell actors how to act. I can imagine it's even mainly interesting to them because they want to see where you can go. They love the suspense, so it's like, I can imagine, yeah, you be you. And I really want to see how you'll interpret this. And it'll be just something I've never seen before.
We're on this ride together. Here we go. Hang on.
1,000%. And I mean, essentially there's even a hysterical photo from, I think, Fangoria magazine where he and his father, John, are hanging out with Elvira. And it's like, yeah, I think he essentially was very close to his dad and just basically wanted to be like him.
Yeah. John Carradine, I don't think he ever turned down a role either. So, I think that when it comes down to it, it's these guys. He knows, that you have X amount of time to make X amount of money and to make X amount of movies. And he's probably, one of them guys where, you don't turn down a role because you don't know if you're going to get another role after that.
Even being on North and South miniseries, I'm sure had to help him because, he got awards noms for that. So, I mean, he's been on a lot of great TV movies that I think are very overlooked, like The Cover Girl and the Cop, and even Six Against the Rock, which is about a real life Alcatraz escape. And so it's like, I think even starting with Lee Van Cleef, there's, for that, on that goofy Fred Olen Ray movie, Armed Response, I think that just showed how he was willing to do all other sorts of movies to branch out to, do wacky college comedies, do Men on a Mission movies, do all other sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah. It's like I said before looking this up, he did Richard III.
Yeah, a random indie with a bunch of B-movie actors that's a Shakespeare readaptation. Yeah, and
you're just like, how did that fit in there?
How did that come about?
Yeah, because the movie before that is Treasure Raiders, which is like your Indiana Jones
martial arts
Tomb Raider knockoff. Yeah. So
funny how it works, man. Funny how it works.
Oh yeah. But literally, I mean, I can go today and watch a David Carradine movie, and be totally entertained, and not question the hour and a half that I wasted. I don't consider it an hour and a half wasted. I have an hour and a half of enjoyment.
Definitely the best way to put it, because like he's just bigger than the movie, and somehow he's able to tell them to kind of get their shit together, and it kind of just even makes sense, like how he would fit it in. Like he would kind of just know how to just come into a movie without intruding upon it or just seeming out of place. He fits anywhere. It's like, yeah, of course he'd be so-and-so's dad. Of course he'd be the creepy guy's voice on the phone. Of course he'd be, just in a love triangle, something weird,
Oh yeah. He's the French fries. His French fries go with everything. So
totally.
Yeah. And like I said, there are movies now that are out, and big movies that I have watched once. Or
some sound effects on your end. You okay there?
Yeah, all three of my animals decided that they needed to be right next to me at one given moment.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
My bad.
That's all right. It's all right.
I got a clip playing by accident. I don't know how. Okay, my bad.
That's all right. Okay, hold on a second.
That's what it was. Idiot. No one can hear that, but I heard some sound effects. Okay. That's what happens when you got too many tabs open. But I mean, that's just it. Yeah. I mean, you could basically have all sorts of, you could go to any of his movies anytime, anywhere, and he kind of just fits all the eras. Even it's like he just goes with the flow. He just he's a very spiritual guy, so I think that helped as opposed to going with like kind of a what you might consider maybe a hippie mentality, I guess.
Yeah, he's you know, I just rewatched I don't know, this is about a month or so ago, Future Force with him as the cop with the robot arm.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is such a goofy concept. It's such a good, but he just
anyone else would
makes
have
the
looked
movie-
miserable
Oh,
or
yeah.
been uninvolving, and he looks like he belongs here, actually, which is,
Yes, he does.
I hate to say it because he's come from some way bigger, more respectable projects, but it's like when you watch it, yeah, if you get anyone to open up, is like, and it's without hesitation. Like, I know people who's like, I haven't heard of any of these movies, it can't be good, but like, they are fascinated by them. They pipe up whenever they would see them, and it's just like it's not something you can say about other people who it's like, oh, they've seen better days though. You know?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Look at Avatar, and look at the guy that plays the lead in Avatar. One of the biggest movies
Totally vanished
ever
into
and
internet movies and video on demand films. Yeah, it's
yeah, and you know,
the movie was
but,
bigger
you know,
than him.
yeah. And David Carradine was usually the biggest part of every movie he was in. So,
And everyone
even if he
wanted to
had a
work with
small
them.
role.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
I can't think of anyone who said, "Oh, I regretted," working with him.
Oh yeah, because even the people that knew that he had a drinking problem, and and it was kind of just like he was still a blast to work with, because you got in there, he was worked his butt off for what he could, and even if he was just there for the day, you got David Carradine for the day, and you got him for the day. So there's some people who are just they're there. Yeah, you paid them. They're there, and they they don't want to be there, and it reads that way on film. You can't help but notice the acting that you
just
can tell they don't want to be there.
Sticks out like a sore thumb, or they
definitely.
They should have fired their agent years ago, and yet they didn't, and here they are, and they're pissed, and it's just like, yeah, well, it is what it is. But yeah, it's like if he didn't care, it didn't come across. He just seemed to be having a fun and just be grateful for everything that he was.
He never acted like any movie was below him. That he
totally.
That you walk into a movie and okay, so he's because I saw that he was in the Gambler 5 where he actually played Kane from Kung Fu.
Yeah,
that could have been.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He could have went in and was like, somebody could have offered that to him. He's like, there's no way I'm playing Kane from Kung Fu
again for the billionth time. Yeah, I think he was happy to just be acting. Yeah, because he had already kind of had a bad boy. It's weird. It's like he has a bad boy attitude, and yet at the same time, like, not the kind that, like you say, just doesn't want to ever be on anything. And I think he does, again, just being in the B movie background and just constantly being in it and with occasional A-list roles, I think that helped. So he never got his ego to where, if he had an ego, it was basically the kind, just the workable kind, where it's like, of course you want to work with me. I'm David Carradine. I will do you proud. I will be the best part of your movie. And I think he was cool with just anything. Cameo, big part, small part, is like, it doesn't matter. Surprise appearance by, is like, and yeah, like you say, is like reprising that role is like anyone else was always like, that's below me. I've done that. And he had no shortage of, hey, yeah, no, I do want to revisit this role. This would be fun.
Oh yeah.
I think he took it all just in general. It's like acting equals fun. What else would you rather be doing?
Yeah, because
mopping floors, And McDonald's, no, thank you. I've never heard any other issues of him just, treating a waiter like shit or being a prude and gropping people. I've never heard anything. And even his wives who divorced him, he's just like, it was kind of one of those, either like the relationship dried up or he was too drunk or his sex got a little too kinky for him.
The womanizing. Well,
never to where it was abusing, but yeah, he was into some freakish stuff, and some of them just said yes and then realized, oh, you're into that? Okay, no, I'm not that kind. Not my boat.
Well, this has been a long time ago. I had a mutual friend, and he went up to Canada when they were filming Kung Fu: The Legend Continues.
Oh, sweet.
And they had like I guess like Kung Fu Con or something like that. It was a little
sweet,
but I guess they had like this dinner for all the people that were there in like a ballroom at a hotel. And yeah, you got to sit at the table with, one of the actors from the show. But Carradine went to every table and made sure that he greeted everybody at the con. Or I wouldn't.
That's cool.
Con, because it wasn't. But yeah, it was
that's a long way. That's pretty cool. And I think it helped that just, again, that allowed him to embody all the other cowboy roles and kung fu roles. Like, I mean, he's in even a movie called Kung Fu Killer. No relation, but heavily influenced, obviously. Son of the Dragon, same kind of deal. 2-part TV movie miniseries. And it's like, yeah, it was pretty cool that he was allowed to do that and just do whatever. And it's like, and I think, I don't know, some actors, again, like it took a while to beg Shatner to come back to, play Captain Kirk, but some people do eventually grow and say, yeah, no, I'm going to play what I'm going to play.
Yeah. It's definitely a, I guess he just found his flow, and you realize that you're not going to get another job if you're, you treat people like crap. No one wants to hire you. And he, because like I said, I'm looking at his list, and I don't think he ever turned down a job. And cause I guess if there it is. The Gambler Returns, The Luck of the Draw, 2-part TV movie. And it never, you never can tell that if he's having a bad time while making a movie. It does never show. He's there, like I said, I love Sundown, and I think he's great in that movie, but he's playing David Carradine as a vampire. So
yeah, and anyone else could have basically, forfeited or just been unwelcome. And I think he just, again, he'd worked with Anthony Hickox on Waxwork 2.
Waxworks 2, yeah.
And I think he just decided, it was like, hey, I like this guy's style, and I never heard anything about him arguing with anyone or saying, I refuse to do what you asked me to do.
Yeah, that could definitely be a game changer on that. Start telling people you're not going to do something. And, and I get a certain extent, but, if you want to work, sometimes you got to suck it up and work. And he just seemed like he was just like, hey, I'm working. I'm happy. Good. Putting out. So, I'm a star one day. I'm a surprise appearance the next. It's like, it does make you wish more actors could kind of be like that. But there's just some, they just can't escape it. They just always look miserable, unfortunately. Oh, my God. You were talking about Seagal. I got on a kick the other day, and I was looking up a fake martial artist, and And we were looking on the like Count Dante and Frank Dukes and
Eric Roberts
and Steven Seagal. And the worst part about it is Steven Seagal has a legit martial arts background, and you just watch it and you're like, oh my god,
it's like he had a dojo, and then it's like he decided, but I'm gonna not study, I'm gonna make my own shit up, and people will buy it because I used to work for the CIA.
Yeah.
He would go with that, and people would say, that's awesome, let's make it a movie. And it's like, if he actually worked for the CIA, you wouldn't have this movie.
Yeah. And I haven't sat down and watched the Seagal movie in I think like the last one I watched was like On Deadly Ground, if that tells you how long ago this was. But I've watched clips of some of his movies, and you're just like, he's the producer. He made this movie, and you can tell he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. That's how spoiled he was. And it's like, it's amazing to how some people have all the time and power in the world, and they don't want to even be bothered with just getting it done. It's like, well, someone's got to get something done. And if you got barely enough takes, it's going to show. It just can't be helped.
Yeah. And the best part about it is we talk about fake martial arts. I've never seen any videos talking crap about David Carradine's fake martial arts.
Yeah, and I guess the fact that it took that a while for people to kind of know when he practiced versus how he got the role without any experience, I think, again, yeah, it's just like, people like you, they don't want to look up dirt on you. For even the TMZ guys of their day, didn't want to look on, they just pretty much were like, oh, who's he dating? Oh, why is he an interesting person? What's his religion? He's really good at playing a Buddhist. Is he actually a Buddhist?
Yep.
And it's like, he's just spiritual. It's like, if you want him to play a Christian, he can play a Christian. If you want him to play a hippie, he can play a hippie. If you want him to play...
Oh, yeah.
In a way, I feel like he was more Tom Cruise than Tom Cruise, because it's like, everyone likes to like seeing Tom Cruise's movies and hating the person. And it's like, he's so spiritual. He basically would be a legit Scientologist if Scientologists were actually doing what they claim they're supposed to be doing. It's like, yeah,
Scientology was a real religion.
If it were an actual religion, yeah, he's like, he could say, I have super alien blood. It's like, but he's fortunately, I think this is it. He was so mystical, but he never came off as the ones who you're like, we hire him to say ridiculous shit. It's like,
oh yeah,
we actually want some meaningful stuff. So I can understand why he would be an occasional like TV show host of a or narrate a documentary. It's like, he also is like, if he said it, I believe it.
Yeah. I was going to say, because he says it, I really want to believe that that's true. That's got to be true. I mean,
and life definitely imitated art. So it's cool that he actually, took up martial arts briefly, to kind of study it and become it, and then just the rest of the time. And yeah, he must have worked out some capacity or done some kind of healing exercises, because some of his movies, it looks like, especially in the late 80s, like he was about to grow a belly, and then he somehow kind of
I believe because I found
maybe enough sex, I don't know.
Yeah, burn off those calories. I know he found Tai Chi, and because I legitimately,
that can work. My aunt swears by that, so yeah.
Yeah. I think at my shop I have one of his like Tai Chi VHS tapes where he teaches people the Tai Chi.
And that definitely helped too. He made it into a brand. It's like, you want me to be either a charismatic guy or a cowboy or just the kung fu persona, I'll do it. So
the mystical kung fu man.
It's a lot to choose from. That's
well, it's like there are movies that I thought he was in that I go back and rewatch now, and I was like, oh, that's not him? Holy crap. Okay.
Someone similar who had a similar on camera, off camera technique.
Well, was it the Warrior and the Sorceress I just watched the other day, and then I watched was it the Wizard and the Warrior or something like that? And it was of all people, Simon McCorkindale as the sword wielding, had the 3-point sword.
Yeah, from Jaws Free and all those other wacky.
Yeah, but in my head, from watching that when I was a kid, because I used to always see the Carradine one and then that one almost always together, that in my brain, he was in both of them. And it wasn't till, like relatively within like the last 10 years, I found a DVD copy and I was sitting there watching it and I was like, what the hell? That's not Carradine in this movie. And I'm like, I know he was in a movie like that. So I'm going through my collection and I'm like,
the one.
That's the one he did. He did the sorceress and the warrior and the sword and the sorceress. And, the titles are really close to the same and the almost the same principle. But yeah, I always want to say that they were on like those Up All Night movies or whatever, the late night movies.
USA Up All Night.
Yeah, they're always almost always a double feature. And in my kid brain, always just superimposed him onto both movies.
I think it also helped that, basically, I think Keith is the only one who pretty much just did independent movies and dramas for the big and small screen. But yeah, they all kind of had a variation of their father John's predicament. But yeah, John was mainly just known for just being the mad scientist or just a cowboy. And I think they just learned, just embrace every kind of, do your best in any kind of project. And David's just kind of stands out to me a little more just because of that, just that gentle guy who can do brutal things or just other outrageous stuff. And you just want to know where it'll go. And Robert basically just went with the whole is like, I'll be a dad, I'll be, and then I'll guest star as a bad guy on a few of the crime shows. And then I'll go back to just doing the billionth take on my Revenge of the Nerds, persona, it's like, or spoof that. And it's like, every once in a while I'll see him be in a TBS show where basically, yeah, he was just,
yeah, he's
how to pick up chicks, nerd style or some shit like that. It's like, I see what you did there.
Yep. Those guys found their wheelhouse, stayed in it, where David was just
even
like,
Keith,
okay, you want me to be in this movie?
Oh, totally. Even Keith stars in Westerns once in a while. And it's like, but he won't even necessarily play a cowboy. Sometimes he'll just be a guy who's on a homestead or, as a Native American friend. And that was before even Deadwood, it's like, so it's just interesting how they were all in the Long Riders, but they didn't necessarily all pick the whole Western route.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I forgot that David did the hosting job for, Wild West Tech?
Yeah.
For the History Channel. Yeah. And I was watching that one night. I kind of sitting on watching like Forged in Fire. And then after that last episode of that, then that was on. I was like, oh yeah, he was on this show too. Jeez.
They still play it? Wow.
They'll still play it, but it's literally like at 3:00 in the morning.
It's like a typical sci-fi channel. It's like stuff that's still in the can that we're not showing anything new of. But if you want repeats, if you're on a nocturnal or a graveyard shift or just a doctor who wants something on in the background in their lobby, is like, there you go.
I am a nocturnal person, and
oh, trust me, I'm up till 4. That's when I have to sneak in my TV watching, because everything else I'm working during the day or editing the show or watching these movies and saying, hey, I got to get back to editing and go hang out with family so I have an actual life. So yeah, it's funny how
that's what I get to do once we're done on here. I'm going to go and I'm going to spend a little bit of time with my wife and my kids, and then I'll go back to editing my show.
Totally. I'm going to cook something for mom and pop and possibly even sister, and then we're going to hang out, talk for a bit about how life is good despite this crappy circumstance, and then go back and it's fortunate that I don't even have to go into work tonight, but because of this weather. But yeah, David is also just one of those, like, if he had said I had braved a storm, it could be total dog shit, just a fun long tale adding to his legendary status, and I would believe it. It's like he just has the magic touch. And sometimes all you can do is just be comfort food. Like, we were talking about actors who kind of, in other episodes, who basically chose a dramatic and then became a comedic kind of nature. Is like, that transition is rough for some of them, and it seems like no mountain was high enough for him. It's just
nope. Well, I mean, he made a essentially a kaiju movie with Q.
Yeah, being a detective, and anyone could play that, but he was like in on the joke. You didn't have to tell him, hey, we're doing a wacky tribute to giant monster movies in America with, Maniac Cop creator Larry Cohen.
And oh man, Cohen's like the guy that he was like his go-to guy. Why can't I think of his name off the top of my head? Because he's in this stuff. He's Mo.
Michael Moriarty, yeah, is in there. And
Michael Moriarty,
same
yes.
kind of deal. He's just was used to being a TV guy, and he was used to kind of is like, okay, we're doing a casual kind of tribute to different kinds of genres, stuff that's tricky to explain. Somehow these cool cats, they get it. They understand what is needed. And there's a guy who decided to kind of just retire out of the industry long ago. It's like enough Law and Order revenue money. But yeah, I mean, I've never even seen. David's just so cool. He didn't even really have to. He mainly just would appear in like a comedy show. Like he's like briefly on Alias, but I don't recall that, and wasn't really into that spy show. But I'm sure he got fan mail for that. He had to have gotten fan mail for just everything he appeared in, just because he stuck out in some cool fashion. He just
the fact that he was on Just Shoot Me just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, and anyone else would not want to do that. How dare you question me or make fun of me being a martial artist?
Oh yeah, he was in a Jonas Brothers video.
Yeah. and just unusual predicaments. It's like somehow he was the guy. Is like, if you're going to do a cameo, you'll be the easiest cameo to do because you'll do everything we ask you to do and you'll have fun doing it. And it just can't be said for anyone. There's so many people where it's like, even if they're a cool persona who's had a hit and miss career, like their agent has been very greedy, or they communicate for like 6 different people, so something gets missed in transition one way or the other. So it's just a bastard of a time just booking someone for a convention or for a funny live event, or just like you say, even the simplest TV guest spot is like, we only need you for 2 hours. Come on.
Yeah,
I
think it's funny because Wesley Snipes, you heard the horror stories about him, and now it's the other way around. You hear like all the good stuff about him wanting to come. He comes in and does cameos. He does the the one-offs, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he was big. Then he got too big at one point, and then post direct video and prison time, I think everyone's like, where the hell did he go? It's like, he shouldn't have even been in prison. Couldn't he work something out? But I guess you didn't know if he was too proud, he thought he was untouchable, or what. But you definitely knew that he had kind of a bad agent, and then just like you say, he just wanted to be the star. And I don't know if he wanted to measure up to all the other giant other superstars at that time, or just he was an ensemble. He was too talented for his own good. What was going on there? And yeah, this is like David. He's been in trouble with the law, but it's been over just very simple, stupid stuff like shoplifting when he was on an army base when he was just a young lad, and then the rest of the time just making loud noise briefly.
Oh yeah.
Pretty minor compared to other people who have had about a gazillion DUIs or been arrested for snorting coke.
Oh yeah. It is a damn shame that we lost him. I mean, when we did, because he was.
Yeah, because I was like, that's no one deserves to die, but that is especially someone who did not deserve to die as young as he did.
72. Yeah, I mean, that's not that old. It's,
Would you say he created the best original comic book hero? Because like Kung Fu, like I'm surprised there wasn't like a serialized like comic book version. It's like that's just a bigger than life, persona.
I want to say there was a Kung Fu comic, but I think it was one of the ones where
you collect on a cereal box or something.
No, I think it was from Dell, I believe. or Gold Key, and I think like the company went out and like nobody ever picked it back up, or they wanted too much money for the IP or something stupid like that.
There should have been a video game or something. Yeah, because I mean, people like to shit on Kung Fu now because I get it. It is unfortunately whitewashing, but at the same time, at least they kind of make up for it. Is like he's a mixed individual, and it's also just kind of a fun tribute to that East meets West. Did Warner Brothers steal it? Oh, they totally did. But you know, it is what it is, unfortunately. But at least he didn't, you know, talk shit and act like, hey, you know, I could kick anyone's ass. You know, he kind of just was always, I'm cool, and if you want to do a movie together where we fight each other, let's do that. You know, and just I think that made up for it versus other people who, you know, like Seagal would do the whole you know, and other people believe it. It's like, no, Seagal can totally not pulverize anybody. He's the biggest fake in the business because he had it, and then he chose to just basically get people to suck his dick. You know, it's just like,
yeah.
It didn't help that he also, you know, had a mobster producer. So it's just like, yeah, he's in some. Did you ever see that Smoking Gun article? How Seagal was like testifying against like the producer, and then wrote up a story, and the FBI is like, "Oh, we thought he was going to tell us something useful. This totally contradicts all 6 other accounts. Goodbye." All you can helped us prove is that this guy is a piece of shit. That's got nothing to do with your fictional story. And I think that's just it. I think Seagal, he was basically picked on as a kid from like New Jersey or whatever, and then, you know, you see him trying to act all Asian, all black, all, you know, based on who his star is, based on who he is. He basically, I guess, I don't know if you'd say he's bipolar or what, but yeah, he basically wanted to just be a persona and play pretend, even though the cameras weren't on. And
yeah,
Carradine basically just said, hey, what persona you really dug, I'll be sure to do another cool tribute for.
Yeah. He goes, who do you need to be in this movie? You need to be Frankenstein from Death Race. I can do that.
Just let me have my weed, let me have my women, let me have my drink, and then I'll do whatever the fuck you want. And
yeah, like you said, it's one of them ones where I don't ever feel bad for taking an hour and a half out of my day to watch a David Carradine movie.
Totally. You've summed it up. He's just very likable, and
yeah,
the movies really did want to play ball. It's like, okay, well, we got a special exclusive guest star. You know, this is as big a star power as we're going to get for this movie, so we better be on his level and treat him with respect, as opposed to, you know, only pay him and everyone else gets paid nothing. It seemed like he must have had some reduced rates or something, and I guess his agent had to figure out, how do I market him better, you know, because that word gets around if you're cheap to get by. But I guess it also helped that, because yeah, when he gets to the 90s, he can still do a few giant kicks once in a while, and this is like, so he had, I guess, like you say, the Tai Chi, just decent fitness. And if you never heard about him being difficult to work with the fight scenes, although yes, early Kung Fu, the fights get very confusing in the 3rd and final season. So I think when you did the continuation, did all those other kinds of B-movie martial arts films that were made for TV or video stores, I think he just decided, hey, you know, you want this kind of fight? How would we do this? This looks better on film, or I can actually do this, you know?
Oh yeah.
You win because I'm the bad guy, and this, you know, this will look better because you totally owned me here. And you never even see him just getting angry about playing. You see other people who do that narcissism where there's like, I'm tired of the good guy roles. I'd rather play a villain, or vice versa. You know, I'm tired of playing the bad guy. And I think his villains were just kind of simple, because it was either just a simple like bitch slap or just taking over a town with brutal force. It was never anything just over the top. It was like, yeah, of course he killed and raped a bunch of people. You know, it's like, no, he's the evil gunslinger who has no shames or quibbles about his reckless behavior. And I think that was just easy for him to channel his bad boy attitude if it had gone out of control in a different time frame on screen, you know? So it's like, that's awesome that he can channel that and make it, you buy it.
Oh yeah.
Because there's other guys. Can you think of other people who it's like they played a good guy or a bad guy, and it's just, it doesn't work because their persona they become known for is just too much greater than the newer movie? they're in.
Yeah. I mean, there's guys like you'd never be able to put Chuck Norris as a villain.
No.
You know,
he's always going to be the John Wayne-esque, cowboy who comes in and kills people who are way too evil, who are going to laugh. Yeah, well, and that's the other structure too, is like he always did the kind of the black and white, where it's like the bad guy is just evil because he's evil and laughing like a maniac, and he's going to do an over-the-top gory death. And so it's like, it's like when you stick with the formula, it's just near impossible to break out of it. And I mean, it even took him a while to do the whole just like Chuck Norris facts / joke book. And I think Carradine, he was an easy guy to kind of mock. But I mean, like, look at his Mad TV appearance. He did like a few of those. That was hysterical, where Will Sasso was playing Seagal and he basically comes back to life and breaks his neck after he's twisted his neck. It's like, that was funny. Like, anyone else would have been like, oh, like, especially Wesley Snipes at that point, he would have been, no, that's stupid. You can't make fun of me because I'm actually awesome. It's like anyone else would have been unapproachable. And I think he's just a decent character who just is like, I get it. We're playing characters. No one has to know what we do. And if they do, that's fine. And it's like, I got no demons to share. No. I just want to be on the road, go on a vacation. Because basically, I am on vacation. I'm getting paid to be on vacation. Meet some funny individuals.
Yeah. So you do get those actors too who just take jobs so they can go travel to wherever they're filming.
Oh, totally. Eric is definitely one of them. And I mean, even on like other B-listers, is like that we mentioned on here, is like Lance Henriksen and Tony Todd were cool with doing their tribute to other movies they'd done, like Alien or Candyman. But there were others where it's like, yeah, we basically, we sucked it up because we found out late in the day it was basically an amateur movie set. But yeah, it's like, I mean, we even talked to Fred Williamson. He was a guy who's kind of was known for being a football star, then a TV guest star actor, and then blaxploitation actor, and then just rest of the time B-movie actor with occasional appearances of him being himself. So I think that's just it. It's like that they've been on so many. Both these talents have been on so many productions of different types that they're okay with what they got, and people respect them. So they are allowed to still be awesome in some light. And if they're made a fool, it was hardly something where it's like, yeah, I'm not proud of that, or God, that was just too stupid in my opinion. I hope I don't get in trouble. It's like, and yeah, it's just cool to see just a rare kind of inspiring story for someone who's had what should have been a rockety, lifestyle and career.
Oh yeah. And he definitely could have been, one of the from the beginning, well, I'm a Carradine, but
I'm famous for being related to other famous people. Yeah. He could have done that card, that nepotism. And he knew it wasn't, I guess he must've known, just studying his dad, he wanted to be as awesome as his dad, as opposed to, okay, he's going to be there for me all the time. I think being in the Army helped too. I think he learned what consequences could happen if he fooled around too much. And I think it helped that he had tried to avoid the draft, and he had fortunately didn't have to see too much combat. He basically just had to be a visual artist who worked there,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess he also just was grateful for life. He's like, it could end any day, and he just did what he loved. So.
Oh yeah. Yep. And he, like I said, he could be anything. He could be, and it was all just slightly different versions of himself, but he could play the good guy, the bad guy, the mentor, the student, the comic relief, even in some of the stuff, And
it seemed like if any role he turned down, he basically just said no, but he had enough freedom at that time, I guess, or maybe his agent asked for too much money at that time. You never know. But yeah, I've never heard anyone say, even just other stories, I meant to get him. I meant to, bring him on board this project, but he was too expensive, or he didn't know his lines. He showed up drunk. Yeah. So it's like, yeah. And I think we pretty much just covered the base of niceness goes a long way.
I'm sitting here reading all this stuff about his all of his marriages and stuff. I'm going to go out on a limb and go, that's why he was in so many movies. That has to be a lot.
It really has to be. It's just women, man. And I think that was just it too. I'm sure he had to have charmed some other people at casting. Is like guys wanted to be like him, women want his number. So he's like, yeah, he's just a cool dude.
Oh yeah. Cool dude.
Even when he's showing his age, like his hair's graying, it's barely the kind where you're just like, yeah, no. It's like he always kind of worked into it. He kind of always had I never heard about him wearing a wig, but he started, putting his hair in the ponytail, and is like, yeah, that's what Seagal should have been. That's what, if you're going to do the whole East meets West formula, you got to at least kind of embrace that. And just, again, just being with all these other actors of different factions is like, you never hear anyone about saying, hey, he was intimidating to work with, or he wanted to upstage me. It's like, yeah, let's be part of the scene. Let's do it. Let's have fun.
Yep.
So, where can we find your show?
You can find my show on the YouTubes.
Group Therapy TV.
Yep. And the Group Therapy TV podcast on YouTube and on Podbean, and actually about anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can hear my audio only versions of my shows. I also, I do those. Basically, I keep my audio version up. I don't do as many listens on there, but I have friends that are truck drivers and they still listen to it.
Oh,
so
nice.
I do it for a handful of my fans. The YouTube has kind of more taken off, especially lately.
Totally. The more guests you have, the more people will actually want to listen to it and support it. So there you go. And
on top of it, I started doing. I always told my friends I wanted to do a horror host. I wanted to be a horror host when I was, and then I became friends with some horror hosts, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of you guys out there. I want to change it up, so I started hosting Saturday morning cartoons.
Nice.
So that is my other show. I bring you the quote unquote best of Saturday morning cartoons and a few of like the midday cartoons. I kind of come in, I give little tidbits of information and
snippets on why this is a PBS or Nickelodeon cartoon.
Yeah. I also talk about comics and stuff like that, during and I put commercials back in them. I put PSAs and all that fun stuff. That was just like a little, I did it essentially as a commercial for myself, for my show and for my store. And that started taking off, and then that started helping my other shows take off.
Yeah, if they listen, they'll be like, hey, where can I buy your merchandise? Oh.
Yeah. And I do it for fun because, like I said, I'm a night owl. My wife and my son go to bed. I'm up late night watching TV, so I started like just doing more stuff to keep myself busy. And I contact people. Like I just got contacted a couple days ago. I got look at my schedule over here. I got 3 guests filming next week. I already got 1 in the can for next Monday's episode. And so hopefully I can knock out 3 of them next week and then take like a week off so I don't have to do an episode. But yeah, I interview everybody from directors, actors. I've interviewed Ken Gerhardt, the cryptozoologist that's always on the History Channel and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
I met Debbie from Manos.
Yes, she's amazing, isn't she?
Such a great interview. And then I talked with Tanya Atomic, who directed Manos Returns.
Yes.
And I've talked to some other people who've worked with her. I've even interviewed like wrestlers, wrestling promoters, comic book artists, comic book writers. If I find it interesting, I'm doing an interview with them if I can. So
1,000%.
Yeah. So it's a I'm not doing this for any money or anything else. I'm just doing this for the love of doing it. And I'm actually met a lot of really cool people that I talk to on a regular basis because of it. So
we'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new Podcast Cure-All? Sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed, and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, Prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be
could
a
you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
Greetings, friends. My name is Dean Legero, and I'm the host of the 3324 podcast. I invite you to join me and my lifelong friend Eric Kuber to come with us as we discuss the music and movies that shaped our life. Each week, we'll pick an album or film that we really connect to, and not only give you some great info and trivia, but also discuss, debate, and celebrate what it means to us and the journey it took us on. We also look forward to hearing from you and giving us some of your picks for us to check out and discuss. I think it'll be a really fun experience, so come along with us for the ride. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider and at 3324.buzzsprout.com. Thanks for your time, and welcome to the 3324 family.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-last plot holes of gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up